Catechism number 6 is how can we glorify God? And the answer is by loving him and obeying his commands and his law. Let's talk about this word glorify. This isn't a word we use very often, is it? I don't go around saying, oh wow, I just glorify that song, or I sure do glorify my friend Sydney. It just isn't a word we use very often, if at all. In fact, I think I've only used that word at church. So let's talk about what it means to glorify something. To glorify is to give honor, praise, or admiration to someone or something, or to worship or give thanksgiving to someone or something. So this means that our response to who God is and what he has done glorifies him. Let's think about some of the ways we respond to things. So when your team scores the winning point on the last second of the game, how do you respond? This is how I respond, woohoo! And when I saw a sunrise for the first time, my response was just silence. I was in awe of the beauty. And whenever my cat comes and crawls on my lap and snuggles with me, I feel all warm and fuzzy, and I'm just filled with love for him, and I want to squeeze his little cheeks. When I love things, there's a response that happens in me. It might be excitement or awe or warm and fuzzies, but something happens in me. I respond to that love. So what is our response to God? If we love him, these are some of the things we might feel. Not because we have to, but because we love him. We believe he is God and are so thankful for him. Let's look at this passage in Deuteronomy chapter 11. In this book in the Bible, Moses is writing to the people he was leading at the time, and he was teaching the people how to glorify God and why God is the only person who's worthy of their glory and praise. And Moses goes on in this chapter and tells how God did all these miracles and wonders when they were in Egypt, and how when a couple of the guys and their families sinned against God, God opened up the earth and it swallowed them and all their houses and all the living things that belonged to them. Whoa, that is huge. That would make me be like, whoa, and say, this God is awesome and big and powerful, which would lead me to another type of response, obedience. We also glorify God when we obey his commands. This obedience is not because we have to do it. The obedience to how God shows us to live and to treat others should be motivated by our love for him, because we see how much he has given to us. Not because it's going to give us special favor from him or because we are afraid of him. This is really just trying to protect yourself. When we obey God, we are loving him and we are saying, your way is best. You are awesome and do great things. And you love us so much, you gave Jesus to die for our sins, and he rose from the dead so that we can live forever with you. Loving God and obeying his commands starts by remembering what God has done for us and how much he loves us. I don't know about all of you, but sometimes I can forget about that. Or some weeks, I only remember how great God is on Sunday when I hear someone talk about God and all the great things he has done. So what would it look like to glorify God every day, to show him love and obey him each day? I think that loving God and obeying him each day takes us back to Catechism number 1. Do you remember what that is? Let me remind you. Catechism number 1 is, what is our only hope in life and death? And the answer is that we are not our own, but belong to God. We belong to God. Our purpose and reason for being here on this earth is to glorify him, to make him known to the world around us, and to love and obey him. When we live this way, we are fulfilling our purpose in this life. So, how can we glorify God each day? I have a couple of ways we can do that. They aren't hard and they don't take a lot of time, but if you can get in the habit of doing them, you will grow in your love of God and fulfill your purpose of glorifying him. So here's a couple of different ways. Number 1, Remember who God is. Remember that he's the creator of everything, that he's so powerful, that he made the mountains and the oceans and the galaxies and the stars, and he created you and the person next to you and the person on the other side of you, and that all the things about us are so complex and how different that we all are. That's amazing. Remember that God has done all this. Number 2, thank God for something each day. This is something that happens, or there's different things that happen in your life each day that only happens because God created it or has ordered it to be that way. Actually, there's thousands of those things, but sometimes we lose sight of that. So think of one. One of them could be the sun rose today. That's God's creation and his plan. Your heart beats without you thinking about it. He created that system inside of you to work that way. You have food today, and you didn't even have to think about getting it. He provided it. Thank him. Number 3, tell someone something cool that God did or does. Now, this doesn't have to be weird, okay? I promise. But maybe you're talking with some friends at lunch, and you're talking about the latest funny meme or new thing on a game that you were playing, and you just say, "Isn't it cool how God gives us a sense of humor?" That is glorifying God. You're giving him credit for creating us and gifting us. And the last one is obey what he says for us to do. Our response to God's love for us is that we want to obey him. And he asks us to do 2 simple things: to love him and to love others. To obey him today may mean that you treat your sibling nicely today, or you choose to not talk back to your parents, or you do your chores without complaining. That is how you can love others and love him. So let's review Catechism number 6. It says, how can we glorify God? And the answer is by loving him and obeying his commands and law. This is our purpose because we belong to him.